Hello and welcome back. In the previous video, I talked about the importance of giving long answers and mentioned some points from the band descriptors. In this video, I will focus on speaking part 2, as many students find it difficult to talk for 2 minutes non-stop. All right, let's look at a question. So imagine you get this question in speaking part 2. Describe a memorable experience. So look at this model answer. I went to Thailand last year and stayed for 6 days. I visited my family and friends. Then I spent 2 nights in a tent alone, and so this answer is okay, but there is one problem with this. If you talk like this in speaking part 2, soon you will run out of ideas. You won't be able to talk for 2 minutes. So what can we do instead? Instead, you can add your feelings and reactions to what happened. This makes your answer longer. Let's look at the improved version. Last year, I had an amazing trip to Thailand where I stayed for 5 unforgettable days. During the trip, I visited my family and friends, which was really heartwarming since I hadn't seen them in a while. Spending time with them made me feel recharged and grateful. After that, I decided to camp alone for 2 nights in a tent. It was quite scary at first, but by the second night, I started to feel peaceful and really connected to the surroundings. So let's look at the changes. In the first part, I used amazing to describe the trip. In the second part, I used unforgettable instead of just saying 5 days. And then in the next 3 lines, I added my feelings and reactions to what happened. So this makes it easier for me to talk for longer and describe a memorable experience. This works actually for any kind of questions. So this is the formula. First, say what happened. Let's call it topic for simplicity. Then say how it was and express your feeling or reaction. And let's call it comment. So let's look at the example again. I had a trip to Thailand where I stayed for 5 days. The improved version, I had an amazing trip to Thailand where I stayed for 5 unforgettable days. So in the first example, we just have topic and topic. In the second one, we also have comments or reactions or feelings to what happened. Another example. I visited my family and friends. Just topic, what happened. In the improved version, we add the comments or feelings or reactions. I visited my family and friends, which was really heartwarming. Topic, comment. The third part. Then I spent 2 nights in a tent alone. Just topic, we just said what happened. The improved version. Then I spent 2 nights in a tent alone. It was quite scary at first, but I mentioned my feeling or reaction to what happened. So to recap, first give the topic, then comment, topic, comment, topic, comment. If you just say topic after topic, that makes it so hard to talk for 2 minutes. All right, let's look at more examples. Question. Describe a memorable meal you had. The first topic. I had a delicious meal at a seafood restaurant last month. Comment. It was a special occasion because it was my birthday, and the seafood was so fresh that it reminded me of my childhood. The second topic. The best part was the grilled fish. The comment. It was perfectly seasoned and each bite was mouth-watering. I still remember how it melted in my mouth. So to put it all together, I had a delicious meal at a seafood restaurant last month. It was a special occasion because it was my birthday and the seafood was so fresh that it reminded me of my childhood. The best part was the grilled fish. It was perfectly seasoned and each bite was mouth-watering. I still remember how it melted in my mouth. Topic, comment, topic, comment. The second example. Describe a movie you recently watched. The first topic. I watched an action movie called The Last Mission. Comment how you felt or reacted. It was incredibly exciting because the special effects were amazing and I was on the edge of my seat throughout the whole film. The second topic. The main character was very brave. Now how you felt or reacted. I really admired how he stayed calm and collected in tough situations, and it made me think about how I would react if I were in his shoes. To put it all together, I watched an action movie called The Last Mission. It was incredibly exciting because the special effects were amazing and I was on the edge of my seat throughout the whole film. The main character was very brave. I really admired how he stayed calm and collected in tough situations, and it made me think how I would react if I were in his shoes. The third example, describe a city you've visited. So the first topic, I visited Bangkok last year. Comment. It was bustling with energy and the street food was unlike anything I've ever had. So many unique flavors. The second topic. I spent a lot of time visiting temples. Comment how I felt. Each temple was so beautifully decorated and walking around the city gave me a deep sense of cultural richness. To put it all together, I visited Bangkok last year. It was bustling with energy and the street food was unlike anything I've ever had. So many unique flavors. I spent a lot of time visiting temples. Each temple was so beautifully decorated and walking around the city gave me a deep sense of cultural richness. Notice that if we delete the comments, the answers would be very short. So make sure you add a comment after each topic. Time to practice. The more we practice, the better for short. Now, I'm going to give you 4 more examples, but these are just topics after topics. I want you to add comments to these topics, and if you like, you can type them down in the comment section. The first example. I visited my grandparents last weekend. We had dinner together, then I went shopping. After that, I watched a movie. See, just topic, topic, topic. The second one. I went to the beach last summer. I swam in the ocean. Then I played volleyball with my friends. After that, we had lunch. The third one. I like reading books. I also enjoy watching movies. I sometimes go hiking. I love to travel when I have time. And the last example. I started my new job last month. I have to attend meetings every day. I also write reports. I sometimes work from home. So one more time, practice these examples, add comments to the topics, and if you like, share them with us in the comment section. All right, hope you found it useful. Have a nice day.